Okay, so this is my thoughts on the 40k tournament Marvel Rivals Kingsman vs Zaza. And I do need to explain that the original video is the one that I will be showing, which is not my video. It's going to be Kingsman, and it does belong to him. And just a brief explanation, it looks like he is a YouTuber who mainly plays Marvel Rivals at this time. The original video is an hour long, so I'm going to try to make mine as short as possible. And if you want to see the full situation, please check out their video. I am not going to be getting into exactly what happened, it's just going to be very brief. So, one of the questions you may ask is, why am I making this video? Well, I watched the original and it's about, well, an hour long. And it hit me when I'm watching it that most likely people who are outside of the Marvel Rivals community are going to watch it and not know what is going on. They'll get the basic definition of the bowling and other things, but I kind of just wanted to explain to the extent of what happened when it comes to the character picking. P.S. I should mention, the rival community is pretty much at odds with everything. So labels like anti-dive and dive are pretty blurred, and people argue with that, so I just want to explain how the game mainly works and kind of what the characters do. But first, let's go over the situation. So, Kingsman likes money. Who doesn't? And he wants to win this tournament. It's particularly for creators in this case, and it is called the Deadpool Cup. And at first, when I was introduced to the whole situation, I actually thought he was the one who enlisted the help of these streamers. I'll just put them up on the screen real quick so you can see. But actually, it turns out he didn't. They actually came to him for help because he actually has, like, he's in the top 500. And I'll mention that again later, but that just needs to be clarified before I continue. He did not come to them for help, they came to him. And what happens is they all have like their mains. So there's a roster of characters in Marvel Rivals, and you have DPS, strategist, and tanks. And with those three roles, they're all kind of supposed to complement each other. One of the characters is divided into these sections and has kind of the roles they have to play. You're really only supposed to be doing two tanks, two DPS, and two healers, or strategists. And basically, they're getting together their team, which is 6 people against 6. And they're going to be fighting all the way to win against, well, other competition players. But in the beginning, they all seem like they're working together pretty decently. The problem is, how do I put this? Some characters are not always complementary to each other. So basically what happens is, as the situation continues, Kingsman's main is magic, which Kingsman starts to get upset due to the composition of the team being poor and asks if they can change strategy. Now, I mentioned there's a huge roster of characters, and one of the biggest things that needs to be noted is most characters typically have a character that counters them. So if you don't have a character that counters another character, then sometimes you can be out of luck. Yeah, you can get very good at the character and you can learn to counter pretty much most other characters, but you still will have an inherent issue with certain characters. And if they get really good at the characters and understand that you have that, it can lead to losing the game. Now, this is where my expertise does come into play. I should clarify that I've been playing Marvel Rivals since 2024, December 17th, pretty much shortly after the release. Now, I never really had played this style of game before, so I need to very much clarify I am not the best player, but I do understand how very much so it works. Now, because you have to play another team 6 versus 6 for point, there are kind of two stages that they have in competition in Marvel Rivals. One is to basically stop or push the mission vehicle, and the other one is more of like this little square that you have to stand still on point for so much time. And the best way that I can describe it is it kind of looks like these two methods of strategy. Here's an arrow, and here's the circle. That's what I refer to them as. You can call a push, some people call it that in the community. It is a pushing technique, and the circular one isn't really used by anybody but me, but that's what I refer to it as. Now, if you go by basic with these two techniques, holding ground and then pushing, you can kind of see that everybody follows one of those two complements, the arrow or the circle. and every character is designed to complement one of these strategies. Typically, how you tell if it's a push character or an arrow character is most of the time their attacks will shoot forward. Typically, if they're a circular character, so they're good for holding point on particularly this square. Well, it's not always square. It's more of like a circle. Arena, you are going to notice that their attacks are going to be more circular. And their attacks are circular. They are mainly either you have characters that are really good at one or the other. This is just as basic as I can put it. And even when it comes to this, most people are not always in agreement with this. Magic, in this case, is more of what I would put into the latter one. She is kind of like set up what I call a tank buddy, which means she typically is a great companion to put with a tank and creates a lot of space. She's more kind of like a dueler and has a unique set of aversion abilities that allow her to get up close, take damage, while also escaping enemies or fleeing when needed. She also does have a stun ability that stops people from... and she is better at the circular strats, but she can also be used for pushing if the player is good enough. Plus she makes space, distraction, which allows other characters to breathe and heal. So in this game, you do need to have a good team to pick... Restart. So to pick a good team, the proper strategist has to be chosen, and then tanks and then DPS. There's a lot of people go off of which position is the most important. I say it's strategist because strategists kind of set the precedent of what they can or cannot do. To me, they're the most vital, and every character must kind of complement each other for it to work. You have heal hog DPSs and tanks and strategists that need to be taken into thought. You have low damage output put DPS tanks and healers. Every character has a drawback to playing them. No one character should be technically the kingpin, or once they're taken out, you can pretty much dismember the team. If you're a good strategist or a good DPS, you can kind of figure out who's holding the team together and then take them out from that viewpoint. I've seen a lot more successful teams where you have it to where typically it's more even, so I like to call it the 2-2-2. That is typically the best way to go about it, but you can have variants. One of the best ones I've noticed is a 1-2-3-1-2-3, and it's basically where you put it in two groups, and basically the strategist, the tank, and the DPS all complement each other within that group. That way that if they get split up, which you're gonna have to deal with people who dive, which is where you're pushing forward, so you're particularly in the arrow situation, and then they come from the back and then kill the healers who are in the back. So it's better to have sets of 3 teams, sets of 2 teams of 3 that are together and kind of more organized pushing, because if all the tanks are at the front with the pushing, no one's there to protect the back. So 1-2-3, 1-2-3, it allows for more of it to be even, and all characters complementing the small batches of 3 and then the larger whole. Now, this is where it comes into play. If you don't play the game, you have certain characters that are brawlers, shooters, and, well, everything in between. Zaza, who is the one versus Kingman, she picked Wedo, which can be a good pick, but the whole team picked around this character. Plus, this Twitch streamer didn't really seem to understand how Widow should work on the circle formation, because Widow shoots basically like Hawkeye, which they shoot forward, more of like an arrow one. So they're typically good for pushing, not typically for holding point. You can get good at it, but you typically have to understand how the circle formation works. There's only so many heals a healer can output, and they have to choose carefully who to heal and when to heal. Widows, Hawkeyes, Phoenixes, Squirrel Girls, Hells should be on a nice ledge or tucked away where they are getting kills but not getting killed. They're great for sniping out flyers and typically taking care of more, I like to call them, specialized DPS. But the problem is because they are taking out specialized people, you can cause something which is kind of where it feels like somebody's missing from the field. So if you don't have a very tight unit, it could be that there's other characters, like in this case he mentions Bucky. Bucky can shoot flyers. He can shoot tanks. He's more versatile than somebody like particularly Black Widow. He can handle a lot of characters, and he also has a grab move. So he counters pretty decently, and he's very durable. And the problem is picking like Wedo. Picking just a shooter character can cause a fatigue of absence. If you're one of these characters taking surplus damage, so Wedo, Squirrel Girl, Hawkeye, Hell, Phoenix, any of those, taking surplus damage is not utilizing the edges or walls, your team's going to be cooked. Plus, all those characters kind of do a good job countering each other, so if you don't really have a character who's on the field, who's countering who they need to, you kind of need to switch off to a character who counters who is on the field. So there's this part in the video where basically Invisible Girl, or Invisible Lady, says that she's going to give Zaza a shield, so she could stay on the floor front and center. I understood one thing. She does not know how to play the game, which means they're doubly cooked. Because of the fact that Zaza was not up on a ledge, Invisible Girl only has one shield, and once it hits a certain amount of damage, it's gone. It can be utilized at any point to do a surplus amount of healing if you put it on somebody and then heal them. It's not used for cover situations to cover somebody while they're taking shots. Plus, it's also blue. It's bright blue. And when you put it on somebody, it makes them very, very visible. And then also, when they're picking around her, they picked Doctor Strange. It's a good pick, mainly for Wedo. It is not particularly useful in every strategy. He's good for characters that mainly shoot. If you need to get a Hawkeye or something along that lines, he's typically good for putting up his big shield and making so no projectiles can go through so they can get a good shot. He's not very good in every strategy and provides very little push, and by that he's good for push strategies, but he doesn't put on a lot of damage. He got pretty nerfed pretty hard since season 2 pretty much, or season 3. They had season 0 and that's a whole nother thing, and it makes it very confusing. But he gives protection for projectile characters, and that is mainly what he is able to do for a push strategy. He's not particularly the most best for anything related to the square strategy or the circle take the whatever strategy. See, at this time in the game, there are about 39 characters, and most people have only played 2 to 5 characters, will have gotten 2 to 3 characters and have played them well. But if you have any character that you've played and you have a Lord icon, that means you have to have, I would say roughly, it used to be lower. It's higher now. I think it's, 20 hours? Yeah, it's like 15 to 30 hours. It's typically taking about 20, and then you have some that take 50 hours. So it's a variant to go in. Anyways, it's a lot of time to put into a character, which means that you probably have been on the game longer than you should, and definitely know the rule of the game, which is to kill more than you die. If you go 0 to 6, you need to get off that character and find a different one, because somebody's countering you and they're doing it efficiently enough to make it so you're not getting kills. I think in this situation, I personally do think that the team leader is also to blame. If you see someone go 0 to 6 in the game, they should have said nope and told them to change. So basically, Zaza picked a character that she shouldn't have picked for every single situation, because a lot of them made her kingpin, which means that as this guy, I'll just draw a picture, as this guy, Kingsman, the magic character, is dealing with the backline, the tanks get to push through, and because there's nobody to really deal with that, hard damage wise, whether it be a tank or anybody else, which it looks like the tanks that they picked weren't necessarily complementary to one dealing with the fact that they had a absence fatigue. So they let the tanks, when I was watching the video, multiple times, as Magix is over here diving, which takes a decent amount of skill, I'm gonna be honest. To dive as a Magic, especially with everybody, she does counter certain characters very well, like, Invisible Ladies and Luna's. Because of that hit up in the air technique that she does, it has a certain name for it. It allows her to stun and then kill them. So as she's killing them over here, consistently, most of the time, she's getting MVP. I say he's getting MVP. And they're over here, and multiple times, the tanks push past and are actually able to take point, even though he's doing lots and lots of damage and taking out the healers. And most of the time, he's actually not getting heals. So in this situation, she picks a character that's not complimentary. he's doing 25 to 30 deaths without hardly any heals. And she wouldn't really get off of it to save the tournament. I haven't looked into it, but pretty much I think after he's kicked off of their team because he keeps on insisting and asking her to change, and she just won't listen. He's adamant about it, but they're really disrespectful considering the fact that they pick him. And he's going 25 kills to 3 deaths without hardly, any heals in this place. He gets pretty frustrated and keeps on requesting, and Zaza's choice is defended not only by her, but actually by her team. They dig in with complimentary team to carry her. And the last game he has with them, she literally gets MVP after not really carrying her weight at all. And this is the hard part, is I need to explain this too. You can have somebody who gets MVP and does not deserve MVP if everybody is not healing everyone else, is only healing them, and it allows him to push the point. If you have a mission vehicle and it pushes all the way over and gets 3 points, because you have 3 points you need to make, and it gets to the center third point and you make it MVP, but the fact that you didn't stop them earlier, which that's what I saw, is his team started undermining him by not healing him, not going after the people who are the issues, and giving Zaza the easy kills, which is not particularly the best thing to do. You can get people who have 40 to 50 to even 60 kills, even up to 70, and get MVP, and you still lose because they are not killing the appropriate person and stopping the mission vehicle and staying on point. And I saw that over and over again, that his strategy would work if the people worked with him, but at what cost? So they pick a complimentary team to Widow and carry her. They failed because Widow just ain't the character. Or Zaza doesn't understand basic strategy. And funny enough, actually, he got kicked out of the tournament because Zaza's boyfriend put in a complaint and got him disqualified. What do I think? Well, I think he was a little bit upset because if somebody comes to me and I'm an expert at something, and he's pretty damn close to it, and they say, hey, can you please help us win this game? And then I'm like, okay, cool, I will be more than happy to help. You picked me because I got top 500 of the game on every single position, tank, strategist, and also DPS. Then you proceed to not listen to what I have to say, not listen to the strategy I have come up with, and I'm saying, hey guys, please listen. But there's one point where they tell him to fuck off and to shut up. I don't think that's the mentality you should take into anybody or be polite about. And I definitely feel like Zaza's teammates thought that they were protecting her, but they went way too far. Truth be told, it really just comes off like Kingsman was the only one who really cared about winning and the game. His team should have been honest about the fact that they didn't really care if they won or not. I mean, there's a point where it's literally for the vibes, is what she says. So honestly, watch the video if you want to understand a little bit more. I hope I explained it a little bit better when it comes to the actual strategy of the game, because I don't think if you don't know what the strategy is to the game that you would understand exactly how bad it was. Because in that attempt to pick a character for projectile ranges, she gave no breathing room and she did not carry her weight. And you either need to be the best character in the world to carry that weight, or you need to get off the character. And even sometimes if you are the best character in the world, like with shooting, projectile, it does not matter if you have a character that counters. There are lots of characters that counter in this game, and if you have a character that counters you, you need to get off of that character. And the hard part is sometimes your team gets used to a strategy where they rely upon you to be that character, and because you're outputting so much damage, and you need to understand how to be versatile in your picks. That she just was not working in any way, shape, or form. So honestly, that's my thoughts. That's the only reason I chimed in. So hope that helps.